Baruch haba, and welcome to another Torah portion reading. This week's reading is VaYikra, or Leviticus 1:1 through chapter 6, verse 7. VaYikra meaning, and he called. So this week we start Leviticus. And interestingly enough, in our first word of Leviticus, which is VaYikra, this alef right here, in the Torah scrolls, it's always a small letter. And I don't know what the significance is of that. I guess we'll learn that in the kingdom. But it's always written smaller than the rest. And so we'll begin our reading. Now Yahovah called to Moses and spoke to him from the tabernacle of meeting, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, and say to them, When any one of you brings an offering to Yahovah, you shall bring your offering of the livestock, of the herd, and of the flock. If his offering is a burnt sacrifice or an olah of the herd, let him offer a male without blemish. He shall offer it of his own free will at the door of the tabernacle of meeting before Yahovah. Then he shall put his hand on the head of the burnt offering or olah, and it will be accepted on his behalf to make atonement for him. He shall kill the bull before Yahovah, and the priests, Aaron's sons, shall bring the blood and sprinkle the blood all around on the altar that is by the door of the tabernacle of meeting. And he shall skin the olah offering and cut it into its pieces. The sons of Aaron, the priest, shall put fire on the altar and lay the wood in order on the fire. Then the priests, Aaron's sons, shall lay the parts, the head and the fat in order on the wood that is on the fire upon the altar. But he shall wash its entrails and its legs with water, and the priest shall burn all on the altar as a burnt sacrifice, an offering made by fire, a sweet aroma to Yahovah. If his offering is of the flocks, of the sheep, or of the goats, as an olah sacrifice, he shall bring a male without blemish. He shall kill it on the north side of the altar before Yahovah, and the priests, Aaron's sons, shall sprinkle its blood all around on the altar. And he shall cut it into its pieces with its head and its fat, and the priest shall lay them in order on the wood that is on the fire upon the altar. But he shall wash the entrails and the legs with water. Then the priest shall bring it all and burn it on the altar. It is an olah sacrifice, a burnt sacrifice, an offering made by fire, a sweet aroma to Yahovah. And if the burnt sacrifice of his offering to Yahovah is of birds, then he shall bring his offering of turtle doves or young pigeons. The priest shall bring it to the altar, wring off its head, and burn it on the altar. Its blood shall be drained out at the side of the altar, and he shall remove its crop with its feathers and cast it beside the altar on the east side into the place for ashes. Then he shall split it at its wings, but shall not divide it completely, and the priest shall burn it on the altar. On the wood that is on the fire, it is a burnt sacrifice, an offering made by fire, a sweet aroma to Yahovah. Chapter 2. When anyone offers a grain offering to Yahovah, his offering shall be of fine flour, and he shall pour oil on it and put frankincense on it. He shall bring it to Aaron's sons, the priests, one of whom shall take from it his handful of fine flour and oil with all the frankincense, and the priest shall burn it as a memorial on the altar, an offering made by fire, a sweet aroma to Yahweh. The rest of the grain offering shall be Aaron's and his sons. It is most holy of the offerings to Yahweh made by fire. And if you bring as an offering a grain offering baked in the oven, it shall be unleavened cakes of fine flour mixed with oil, or unleavened wafers anointed with oil. But if your offering is a grain offering baked in a pan, it shall be a fine flour, unleavened, mixed with oil. You shall break it in pieces and pour oil on it. It is a grain offering. If your offering is a grain offering baked in a covered pan, it shall be made of fine flour with oil. You shall bring the grain offering that is made of these things to Yahweh, and when it is presented to the priest, he shall bring it to the altar. Then the priest shall take from the grain offering a memorial portion and burn it on the altar. It is an offering made by fire, a sweet aroma to Yahweh, and what is left of the grain offering shall be Aaron's and his sons. It is most holy of the offerings to Yahweh made by fire. No grain offering which you bring to Yahweh shall be made with leaven, for you shall burn no leaven, nor any honey in any offering to Yahweh made by fire. As for the offering of the firstfruits, you shall offer them to Yahweh, but they shall not be burned on the altar for a sweet aroma. And every offering of your grain offering you shall season with salt. You shall not allow the salt of the covenant of salt of the covenant of your Elohim to be lacking from your grain offering. With all your offerings you shall offer salt. I didn't catch this one earlier. This is Elohecha, which means to you personally, not you plurally. If you offer a grain offering of your first fruits to Yahweh, you shall offer for the grain offering of your first fruits green heads of grain roasted on the fire, grain beaten from full heads, and you shall put oil on it and lay frankincense on it. It is a grain offering. Then the priest shall burn the memorial portion, part of its beaten grain and part of its oil, with all the frankincense, as an offering made by fire to Yahweh. Chapter 3. When his offering is a sacrifice of a peace offering, if he offers it of the herd, whether male or female, he shall offer it without blemish before Yahweh. And he shall lay his hand on the head of the offering and kill it at the door of the tabernacle of meeting. And Aaron's sons, the priests, shall sprinkle the blood all around on the altar. Then he shall offer from the sacrifice of the peace offerings an offering made by fire to Yahweh, the fat that covers the entrails, and alef, all the fat that is on the entrails, the alef, 2 kidneys, and the fat that is on them by the flanks, and the fatty lobe attached to the liver above the kidneys, he shall remove. And Aaron's sons shall burn it on the altar upon the burnt sacrifice, which is on the wood that is on the fire, as an offering made by fire, a sweet aroma to Yahweh. If his offering as a sacrifice of a peace offering to Yahweh is of the flock, whether male or female, he shall offer it without blemish. If he offers a lamb as his offering, then he shall offer it before Yahweh, and he shall lay his hand on the head of the offering and kill it before the tabernacle of meeting. And Aaron's sons shall sprinkle its blood all around on the altar. Then he shall offer from the sacrifice of the peace offering, as an offering made by fire to Yahweh, its fat and the whole fat tail which he shall remove close to the backbone, and the fat that covers the entrails, and alef and tav, all the fat that is on the entrails, the alef and tav 2 kidneys, and the fat that is on them by the flanks, and the fatty lobe attached to the liver above the kidneys he shall remove. And the priest shall burn them on the altar as food, an offering made by fire to Yahweh. And if his offering is a goat, then he shall offer it before Yahweh. He shall lay his hand on its head and kill it before the tabernacle of meeting. And the sons of Aaron shall sprinkle its blood all around on the altar. Then he shall offer from it his offering, as an offering made by fire to Yahweh, the fat that covers the entrails, and alef and tav, all the fat that is on the entrails, the alef and tav 2 kidneys, and the fat that is on them by the flanks, and the fatty lobe attached to the liver above the kidneys he shall remove. And the priest shall burn them on the altar as food, an offering made by fire for a sweet aroma. All the fat is for Yahweh. This shall be a perpetual statute throughout your generations and all your dwellings. You shall eat neither fat nor blood. Now Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, saying, If a person sins unintentionally against any of the commandments of Yahweh, which ought not to be done, and does any of them, if the anointed priest or the HaKohen HaMashiach sins, bringing guilt on the people, then let him offer to Yahweh for his sin which he has sinned a young bull, without blemish, as a sin offering. He shall bring the bull to the door of the tabernacle of meeting before Yahweh, lay his hand on the bull's head, and kill the bull before Yahweh. Then the anointed priest, or the HaKohen HaMashiach, shall take some of the bull's blood and bring it to the tabernacle of meeting. The priest shall dip his finger in the blood and sprinkle some of the blood 7 times before Yahweh in front of the veil of the sanctuary. And the priest shall put some of the blood on the horns of the altar of sweet incense before Yahweh, which is in the tabernacle of meeting. And he shall pour the remaining blood of the bull at the base of the altar of the burnt offering, which is at the door of the tabernacle of meeting. And he shall take from it all the fat of the bull as a sin offering, the fat that covers the entrails, and alef and tav, all the fat which is on the entrails, the alef and tav 2 kidneys, and the fat that is on them by the flanks, and the fatty lobe on the liver above the kidneys he shall remove. As it was taken from the bull of the sacrifice of the peace offering, and the priest shall burn them on the altar of the burnt offering. But the bull's hide and all its flesh, with its head and legs, its entrails and offal, the whole bull he shall carry outside the camp to a clean place where the ashes are poured out, and burn it on wood with fire. Where the ashes are poured out, it shall be burned. Now if the whole congregation of Israel sins unintentionally, and the thing is hidden from the eyes of the assembly, and they have done against any of the commandments of Yahweh, and anything which should not be done, and are guilty, when the sin which they have committed becomes known, then the assembly shall offer a young bull for the sin, and bring it before the tabernacle of meeting. And the elders of the congregation shall lay their hands on the head of the bull before Yahweh. Then the bull shall be killed before Yahweh. The anointed priest, HaKohen HaMashiach, shall bring some of the bull's blood to the tabernacle of meeting. Then the priest shall dip his finger in the blood and sprinkle it 7 times before Yahweh in front of the veil. And he shall put some of the blood on the horns of the altar which is before Yahweh, which is in the tabernacle of meeting, and he shall pour the alef and tav remaining blood at the base of the altar of burnt offering, which is at the door of the tabernacle of meeting. Alef and tav shall take all the fat from it and burn it on the altar. And he shall do with the bull as he did with the bull as a sin offering. Thus he shall do with it. So the priest shall make atonement for them, and it shall be forgiven them. Then he shall carry the bull outside the camp and burn it as he burned alef and tav, the first bull. It is a sin offering for the assembly. When a ruler has sinned and done unintentionally against any of the commandments of Yahweh Elohav, in anything which should not be done, and is guilty, or if his sin which he has committed comes to his knowledge, he shall bring as his offering a kid of the goats, a male without blemish, and he shall lay his hand on the head of the goat and kill it at the place where they killed the burnt offering before Yahweh. It is a sin offering. The priest shall take some of the blood of the sin offering with his finger, put it on the horns of the altar of burnt offering, and pour its blood at the base of the altar of burnt offering. And he shall burn all its fat on the altar, like the fat of the sacrifice of the peace offering. So the priest shall make atonement for him concerning his sin, and it shall be forgiven him. If any one of the common people sins unintentionally by doing against any of the commandments of Yahweh in anything which ought not to be done, and is guilty, or if his sin which he has committed comes to his knowledge, then he shall bring as his offering a kid of the goats, a female without blemish, for his sin which he has committed. And he shall lay his hand on the head of the sin offering, and kill the sin offering at the place of the burnt offering. Then the priest shall take some of the blood with his finger, put it on the horns of the altar of burnt offering, and pour all the remaining blood at the base of the altar. He shall remove all its fat, as fat is removed from the sacrifice of the peace offering, and the priest shall burn it on the altar for a sweet aroma to Yahweh. So the priest shall make atonement for him, and it shall be forgiven him. If he brings a lamb as a sin offering, he shall bring a female without blemish. Then he shall lay his hand on the head of the sin offering, and kill it as a sin offering at the place where they kill the burnt offering. The priest shall take some of the blood of the sin offering with his finger, put it on the horns of the altar of burnt offering, and pour all the remaining blood at the base of the altar. He shall remove all its fat, as the fat of the lamb is removed from the sacrifice of the peace offering. Then the priest shall burn it on the altar, according to the offerings made by fire to Yahweh. So the priest shall make atonement for his sin that he has committed, and it shall be forgiven him. If a person sins in hearing the utterance of an oath, and is a witness, whether he has seen or known of it, if he does not tell it, he bears guilt. Or if a person touches any unclean thing, whether it is the carcass of an unclean beast, or the carcass of unclean livestock, or the carcass of unclean creeping things, and he is unaware of it, he also shall be unclean, and guilty. Or if he touches human uncleanness, whatever uncleanness with which a man may be defiled, and he is unaware of it, when he realizes it, then he shall be guilty. Or if a person swears, speaking thoughtlessly with his lips, to do evil or to do good, whatever it is that a man may pronounce by an oath, and he is unaware of it, when he realizes it, then he shall be guilty of any of these matters. And it shall be, when he is guilty of any of these matters, that he shall confess that he has sinned in that thing. And he shall bring his trespass offering to Yahweh for his sin which he has committed, a female from the flock, a lamb or a kid of the goats, as a sin offering. So the priest shall make atonement for him concerning his sin. If he is not able to bring a lamb, then he shall bring to Yahweh for his trespass which he has committed 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, one as a sin offering, and the other as a burnt offering. And he shall bring them to the priest, who shall offer that which is for the sin offering first, and wring off its head from its neck, but shall not divide it completely. Then he shall sprinkle some of the blood of the sin offering on the side of the altar, and the rest of the blood shall be drained out at the side of the altar. It is a sin offering. And he shall offer the second as a burnt offering, according to the prescribed manner. So the priest shall make atonement on his behalf for his sin which he has committed, and it shall be forgiven him. But if he is not able to bring 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, then he who sinned shall bring for his offering 1/10 of an ephah, or half a gallon, of fine flour as a sin offering. He shall put no oil on it, nor shall he put frankincense on it, for it is a sin offering. Then he shall bring it to the priest, and the priest shall take his handful of it as a memorial portion, and burn it on the altar, according to the offerings made by fire to Yahweh. It is a sin offering. The priest shall make atonement for him, for his sin that he has committed in any of these matters, and it shall be forgiven him. The rest shall be the priest's as a grain offering. Then Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, If a person commits a trespass and sins unintentionally in regard to the holy things of Yahweh, then he shall bring to Yahweh as his trespass offering a ram without blemish from the flocks, with your valuation in shekels of silver, according to the shekel of the sanctuary, as a trespass offering. And alef and tav shall make restitution for the harm that he has done in regard to the holy thing, and shall add 1/5 to it, and give it to the priest. So the priest shall make atonement for him with the ram of the trespass offering, and it shall be forgiven him. If a person sins and commits any of these things which are forbidden to be done by the commandments of Yahweh, though he does not know it, yet he is guilty, and shall bear his iniquity. And he shall bring to the priest a ram without blemish from the flock, with your valuation, as a trespass offering. So the priest shall make atonement for him regarding his ignorance, in which he erred and did not know it, and it shall be forgiven him. It is a trespass offering. He has certainly trespassed against Yahweh. Chapter 6. Or, it just keeps going in the Hebrew. This is the new chapter down here. But in the English, it's chapter 6. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, If a person sins and commits a trespass against Yahweh by lying to his neighbor about what was delivered to him for safekeeping, or about a pledge, or about a robbery, or if he has extorted from his neighbor, or if he has found what was lost and lies concerning it, and swears falsely, in any one of these things that a man may do in which he sins, then it shall be, because he has sinned and is guilty, that he shall restore what he has stolen, or the thing which he has extorted, or what was delivered to him for safekeeping, or the lost thing which he found, or all that about which he has sworn falsely, he shall restore its full value. Add 1/5 more to it, and give it to whomever it belongs, on the day of his trespass offering. And he shall bring his trespass offering to Yahovah, a ram without blemish from the flock, with your valuation, as a trespass offering to the priest. So the priest shall make atonement for him before Yahovah, and he shall be forgiven for any one of these things that he may have done in which he trespasses. Thank you for joining us for this Torah portion reading. The half Torah portion reading is Isaiah 43:21 through chapter 44, verse 23. And for some reason during this reading, I had no breath. I was just struggling to breathe during this one for some reason. So thank you for your patience. And next week's will be much better, Lord willing. Thanks for joining us. Have a blessed week. Shavua Tov.